Hey, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. This is episode 2, the second and final episode of the VF1000R bodywork and paint. And today we're going to head to the paint booth. Stay tuned. Alright, so I just wanted to give you a view of that kind of those tricky parts that were kind of recast from. So we used these guys as to set the mold, and then these are the ones that have been cast from that mold. So now we're taking a mold of the top, and then we will recast these guys over here. And then I've just now started to sand the bodywork. I'm not really gonna, as I said, I'm not really gonna get into showing a lot of this sort of stuff, but I did want to just show you the general repairs that I'd started with polyol and whatnot. Just kind of rebuilding the broken pieces. So yeah, lots of work to do. And I tried for the first time my new Amazon. It's just kind of a DA, like kind of dual action mini sander, air powered. Works reasonably well. The only thing you got to be careful of with this thing is if you use conventional air tool oil, it's too thick. So I use a mix of air tool oil and oil for a sewing machine or hair clippers, and it works okay with that stuff. If you put the regular stuff in it, it just bungs it up and it just doesn't work. So and my compressor up here is really too small for it, but so it kind of sucks a lot of air, but generally speaking it works okay. I got to buy some of these some more of these Velcro sanding discs now though, because you kind of chew through these things like crazy, but it works pretty good for the money. I think, I don't know, paid like $80 Canadian for it, so yeah, not bad. Works okay. All right, just a quick update on the body work. I'm going to keep this this brief before I get into painting. So yeah, another bad gash or break, weak spot in the fiberglass on the lower fairing on that side, and another huge spider crack right here that I found. There's a few other spider cracks here and there as well. I have to grind out. There's one down there still, and there's a couple up there where I marked with a Sharpie, a couple down there. So yeah, the more you sand and the closer you look, the more you find. That's kind of the way it goes. One of the things I always like to do if I'm not sure about what kind of paint's on here before, if I think it's not OEM paint, usually, but I don't like to just to sand it and take it to the booth and paint it, because who knows what's going to happen when you get there and how the paint's going to react. And in my experience, if I spray the primer that I'm going to paint on top of onto a part that's got some kind of a funky paint, maybe it's a lacquer or something like that, it's usually going to react. And in this case, the front fender, which looked to be in pretty decent shape, had been previously painted. I could tell that, and as soon as I hit it with the primer, it just started kind of cracking and checking. And you can see here, this is the back part. That's where the paint that had been painted over top of the OEM paint had started to react, and it's probably a lacquer. It was not clear coated, so my guess is it was rattle can with a lacquer paint. And there's, yeah, so I'm just taking now a razor blade because this primer has now softened up the underlying paint, so that means that the whole thing's got to be stripped right back to the original paint of the original ABS plastic before I can go any further. All right, so there's the front fender. I scraped all of the bulk of the paint off with the razor blade, and then I wiped it down with acetone, and thankfully the acetone brought off the rest of the paint and primer and anything that was over top of the original OEM finish. So once I finish scrubbing this whole thing down with acetone, I should be able to just wet sand this and then prime it again, and we should be good to go. All right, so all the bodywork is almost ready to go. It's all been wet sanded, and as usual, as you go through the final stages, at least what's usual for me, is I find tiny little blemishes, and which is what that surface filler is right there. I mean, that'll sand down to next to nothing. They were too shallow to put regular filler in there, and I don't really use that red surface filler for anything else but real shallow minor imperfections. So and then of course this tail unit, this is the one that was cracked right in half. It had all kinds of cracks in it and everything else. As I was wet sanding, I found another crack right in the corner there, so that's just got plastics in it again. All right, everything is ready to go. And yeah, so what I've done is I've kind of masked off, just it takes so long to get the masking done. I didn't want to be doing this at the paint booth, so I basically masked off everything inside, because like you have to make sure I get the paint over the inside edge. So all of this will have paper in here, so I can't get any paint on the black part. I masked off all the vents because you also don't want color paint blasting in through here and getting to places where it shouldn't be. Similarly on the tail sections too. I've taped up all of the holes, because if you leave the holes open, as I found out when I did the ZX7, once you start masking off for the different colors, inevitably there's going to be paint that'll get blown around inside here, but I'm actually going to mask this off as well. And if you leave any of these holes open, or any of those, if I'm painting the red, the paint can get through here, through that hole, and you'll end up with a red haze around here. So I'm just kind of learning my lessons here, taping off and covering all the vents and all the holes, just to make the chance of any kind of blow by of the paint less of an opportunity to happen. So, and then I'll paint it on Tuesday. That'll be probably about 11-12 hours, and then I'll pick it all up on Wednesday. And the reason it takes 11 or 12 hours in a paint booth when you're doing three colors is it's so, you know, laying down one color of paint and clear coating doesn't take that much time. But when you're laying down 3 different colors, so you put down, in this case, you put down the white first, and then, so you need 2 coats of white with, say, 10-15 minutes between the 2 coats. And then you got to let it sit for at least about an hour, maybe a little more, depends how quickly the white will flash off and dry enough. And then you've got, once it's dry, then you got to take all the panels off the stands, and then you got to tape it all up and mask it very carefully to get the same measurements of the paint lines. And once it's all masked up for the next color, whatever that's going to be, I haven't quite decided which order I'm going to do this in, then you got to remount it all on the stands, and then you go through the same process again. You do 2 colors, say 2 coats of blue, and then you let that dry long enough so then you can take it all down again, mask it off, put it back on the stands, and then you can do and I'll do the 2 coats of red, and then that's going to dry long enough, so then take the masking off, and then everything can get clear coated. And then of course there's scenarios there where some pieces have to come completely away and out of the booth while you're doing one color or another. So for instance, if I'm doing the red color last, that fender doesn't go into the booth until the very end when I'm doing the red. So that's just kind of the thing. And similarly with that tail section, if I do the white first, that has this will have a little bit of white on the bottom corner. Once the white's done, if I'm doing blue second, this has to come back out of the booth because I don't want any blue paint on it. And then when the blue's done, this comes back in for the red. So yeah, there's parts coming in, parts going out, and of course everything has to be back in at the end, because pretty much everything has red on it and everything has clear coat on it. So I think the order that it's going to be is white, then blue, then red at the end, and then the 2 coats of clear. So It was just over 11 hours, 11 and a half hours, I think, when I did the ZX7, which is under the cover here. So I'm expecting it to be at least that long for this. I would say there is more taping and graphics layout on this bike than there was on the ZX7. The tank on the ZX7 was trickier, and I had the templates for that. Here there is no tank to be done because the tank was in good shape. It's just kind of everything else. So yeah, the masking is going to take quite a bit of time. All right, we're all set up. Everything's mounted. Haven't done the fender, hasn't mounted the fender yet because it has to be out of here when we do the first coat of white because it only has red on it, so it's going to get mounted to that post. At the end, it'll be the very last stage of paint. So there we go, this will stay in here overnight tonight, and then tomorrow morning, bright and early, I'll be back. So there's the white base coat on. Now I'll probably give this about an hour to dry before I start taping it. Everything seemed to go on okay. All right, it is about 1:45 p.m. and I've just done the blue, so the white coat is done. I've masked everything off. Blue's been done now. So a little while once this is dried, and we'll take all the masking off and we'll remask everything for the red. All right, there's the blue and the white. So in a few minutes I'll start masking for the red. Only one spot I got to touch up here is right there. I scratched the paint when I was taking the tape off. So it was kind of a stupid ass move. So I have to touch that up a little bit. But aside from that, everything came out really nice. No blow by on any of the tape lines, so that's great. All right, so now we are all masked up for the red. Put the front fender back in. Solo seat back in. Right, so there is the red. So once, I'm going to give it another, it needs to dry for probably another 10 minutes before I start peeling off the masking. And then maybe we can get the clear coat pretty soon. All right, so there we are with the 3 colors before the clear coat goes on. Looking all right. Here we are. She's all done. It looks awesome. I am very, 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 very pleased with this. So this will stay here tonight, and then tomorrow morning I'll come back and pick it up. All right, all the freshly painted bodywork is back at the shop and ready for my buddy to put back on his bike. So yeah, it came out really nice. Happy with it. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.